Hello, Charles Lichfield, Director at the Geoeconomic Center, and I'm very happy to be here with Jan Ruzicka from PPF Group, Head of External Affairs and a supporter of the Center, and Ilva Tare, who's a non-resident Senior Fellow at the Europe Center. You're resident. That's why you were here on time. So, thank you everyone for coming. I always look forward to this session. It's one of our more dynamic sessions and surprises happen. So please prepare some interesting questions, audience. And I think we'll start with you, Jan. So you represent one of the biggest investors in the region we're talking about today, Central and Southeastern Europe. Maybe you could walk us through some of the trends you're seeing. A lot has changed in global trade since the beginning of the year, but has that been felt in the region? And what are you seeing?
So I think that what we, all of us see, and not only in our region, but everywhere, that nothing is here forever. We believed the last 30 years that, the Fukuyama, eternal peace and American order will be here forever. And sort of it was like zeitgeist that, there will be more globalization, there will be more liberalism, Russians will become one of us, and Chinese capitalism will bring China closer to us. But nothing is forever. So it was a little bit our hubris, all of us, that, we won, and that's it, that we in Europe don't need to pay for our defense, that, globalized trade and economy, it's a sort of free lunch, and you don't need to be with your friends and allies. I think this 30 years of beauty, which started, in Reagan and Clinton era, it ended 2017. Why 2017? President Xi was / re-elected. I think it was whoever listened to the messaging from the People's Party in China. And then, if you remember, Shanghai FinTech Week, Jack Ma, going busted, and then his IPO canceled in 2 days in Hong Kong. I think it ended an era. Then COVID, then Russian war, and now re-election of Donald J. Trump. So now we are living in a new era, but actually it's not new. We are coming back. I do believe that last 30 years was beautiful anomaly. The world is not getting worse. It's becoming what it used to be, which means, and we feel it very strongly in the region because the proximity to Ukraine and Russia is very close. From my hometown, it's just 600 kilometers. Power and politics is more than business and money. That's the underlying thing I see, and we feel it as a business, we feel it as a government, so it's a little bit like coming back to Thucydides, and this is what it is. Mm-hmm. And you need to be strong in this world, and yes, you have to give something back. So more defense, energy security, friends and allies, even if it's more expensive than alternatives. Final point on this, and this is what we see across the region, the question of Chinese vendors. Yes, Huawei solutions are cheaper and better, but we opted for more expensive solutions because this is for the greater good. So the alternatives, just for sake of making money in business, no longer viable. Mm-hmm. And this is, I see it, energy, telco, defense, and also with whom we trade, friendshoring and nearshoring.
So, well, I'm happy to hear that that's the position of your group, but the data suggests that not everyone has your preferences and your behavior. So the German economy now faces a twofold challenge. One, it's no longer exporting as much to China, but also now Chinese competitors have moved up the value chain to the extent that they can replace German providers, including in the sectors you mentioned.
Yes.
So I bumped into, as one does, the former Prime Minister of Albania, who now owns a factory. No, not Albania, excuse me, North Macedonia. Now runs a factory, and he was extremely happy with his new Chinese machinery that he'd bought. He said, much better, much cheaper than the German alternatives. So are you not an anomaly?
I think it's too soon to tell. For decades, everybody was just talking about NATO and not doing NATO. Wales summit, it's decades ago. Yeah, we will spend more. Now, overnight. I know that there is a little bit of now virtue signaling with 3%, 4%, 5%, but it's very different than it used to be 8 months ago. Mm-hmm. Nobody in Europe, Germany included, now going against the flow. Yes, Spain, to be fair, Spain is exception, but nobody else. And it changed. Everybody believed in telco that Chinese vendors will be here forever. It's not true anymore. Even in Germany, for critical infrastructure, you cannot have a risky vendors. So things are happening now over time, which was always the norm. And if you are a company buying big infrastructure, doing big capex projects which are for 10, 15 years, you are now thinking about things that it was not needed to think about them even 1 year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and yes, Chinese are back in Europe after their COVID.
The zero COVID policy.
Exactly, their entertainment, so they withdraw from the world, now they are back. But we have a CFIUS in Europe. We have a screening. We just seen a few weeks ago, and you know it as a Brit, Sainsbury JD.com entertainment, and then Sainsbury and British government say, hey, we don't want you here.
Mm-hmm.
So this can happen more and more, and you just need to calculate it into your strategy.
Okay. One final question to you before we go to Ilva for some of the trends she's seeing. But not all of the countries we're talking about today are in NATO or are in the EU. So there is, just by virtue of that, a difference. The countries that are parts of NATO have certain constraints on how they engage with external vendors from China. The EU, certainly, that comes with some constraints. But you're operating across markets that are sometimes not in either of those.
Well,
so how does that look for you?
One other thing, we live in a world of truth social. Mm-hmm. And social media and super fast political marketing, and everything is about next cycle. But then this world of post-information age can be a little bit disconnected from reality on the ground. And there are countries in Europe, some of them in NATO and some of them not in NATO, that are being smeared and used in a political marketing, even their own political marketing, for the sake of winning next election. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't do defense, and we don't do Ukraine, and we don't do this. But then, if I look on hard numbers, even in those countries, and we know who I'm talking about, every single 155 millimeter shell goes via intermediaries to Ukraine. So, and even economies that are not in EU, mm-hmm. but are surrounded mm-hmm. by EU countries and single market, there's a reality that, they can talk as much as they want about Russia and China and Chinese machine for their factories. But it's reality that, for example, in Western Balkans, whether you are in EU or not, 85% of your trade is European Union. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. So one thing is messaging here, mm-hmm. I understand. Mm-hmm. Especially in times where European bureaucracy is not that popular than it used to be. But then
was it ever popular?
Well, we got some beliefs. Mm-hmm. But this is connected to this Fukuyama era when you move up Maslow pyramid. So defense was not an issue. And so basically we look upon greater things, greater causes like Green Deal, but now this is gone. So when you are living in the country, if you are leader of the country where Europe, meaning Brussels, is not that popular, you don't use it for your messaging. Mm-hmm. But then your business is exporting to you, that's it.
Got it. So we'll turn to Ilva, but we'll come back to you, Jan, in a few minutes. You're our resident expert. Now I'm very happy that you're a resident senior fellow. We've worked together for a long time looking at the region. But I was wondering if you could run us through the trends you're seeing. So how are countries that you know well and followed for a long time adapting to this new environment?
Charles, in full disclosure, I am from the Balkans, but now I live across the ocean. I'm here in DC. And I'm not an economist, I'm a citizen, to the best scenario, an informed citizen who seeks a better standards of living. That said, I would say that in our region, the latest development, let's say the tariffs or whatever is happening across the ocean, is not really a conversation, and merely because this is seen just as a political issue rather than an economic issue. And there is a reason for that. There is insufficient economic footprint from the USA in the Western Balkans. So despite strong political and security engagement, there is a lack of trade and investment from the US. So if I can put it simply, there are no deals and dollars on the ground. And that is lagging behind the European partners in the region. So I would say expanding American business in the region, either infrastructure, digital infrastructure, or green partnership, green energy partnership, would definitely strengthen the transatlantic influence and support the region's economic resilience.
Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. Do you know why Germany is important in Czech Republic? Not because the proximity of Germany, because Germans own stuff. They own stuff. They are a very important economic factor inside the country with their FDIs, and then we export to Germany. So this is what I've been talking to US ambassadors in Western Balkans for ages. You want to be relevant here? Invest. Invest your money. And investments, it don't mean only Westinghouse and Lockheed Martin. You need to own stuff on the ground.
Not just energy and
exactly. And unlike France or Germany, still our region, Western Balkans, Black Sea, Central Europe, there we are investable. Less progressive stuff, hardworking people. We like to go to office, unlike London. So people really show, and you see them physically at office. And there is a demand for investments. Atlantic Council, you are co-creators of 3Cs initiative 10 years ago. Still we need our pipes, still need our highways. Bring your money, you will be more relevant.
Yep. So is it just cultural, the fact that US investors are not habituated to invest in these destinations? I mean, there must be other reasons why it's been slower than expected.
So on our side, I think the problem is marketing. Central Eastern Europe / Southeast Europe, is it Balkans, Western Balkans? I'm already lost. From this perspective, again, kudos to you guys here at AC. 3Cs is good marketing, but it became sort of like debate club. Especially because it's built on, like, it's a presidential initiative. Presidents, with exception of few countries, don't have power in Europe. We need to work with prime ministers and a minister of finance. So that's one thing.
And we have a minister of finance coming later in the session.
From our perspective, it's really about marketing. Then it's a little bit problem that for quite some time in Central Eastern Europe, it's every guy for himself. So why we always got good meetings here in Washington, as a private company, not as a government, because we don't talk about ourselves. We always talk about Serbia, Romania, and yes, also Czech Republic. And then guys are interested, because I do believe that Central Southeast Europe is a beautiful market. It's more than 60 million customers, which is great. But for Americans, it's too small, like as one-on-one. So you need to play it as a bucket. That's why I think from national security perspective, B9 grouping was helpful. For some perspective, we need to do the same in economy.
So if the Central Eastern Europe is small, can you imagine the Western Balkans market? I would say one of the reasons is the size of the market. We are around 18 million as we speak, without considering the waves of people emigrating. And we do have some other issues like rule of law reforms, structural reforms that are needed, transparency, fight against corruption. That will be, of course, important for the foreign investors. When it comes to foreign direct investments in the region, they are painfully low. Only 1% of the EU's inward FDIs. Now, there are some discussions among the European companies lately to consider, as Jan mentioned, nearshoring frontier. Because let's say clearly the Western Balkans are in the EU neighborhood, and the closeness of the market is very attractive for them. The cost, the Western Balkans have relatively low costs.
On energy?
That relatively.
How about energy costs?
The energy costs, I don't have any data. As I said, I'm not an economist, but I think there is more needed investments when it comes to energy. And you mentioned energy, Ian, that's right, but investment in energy is security too. And it's a lack of dependency that we're seeing in other European countries. So the fact that the European companies are considering now to have the supply chain closer to their home, to the EU,
Yep.
may be an opportunity for the Balkans. But also, these things don't happen just because it's possible. The opportunities don't pay the bills, as I say. All this hard work and the reforms needed by the Western Balkan countries should be done with a fast speed.
If you were to pick, I'll come into you in a second, but if you were to, we're not in the business of talking about silver bullets at the Atlantic Council Geoeconomic Center. We know all of this is complex, but is there any low-hanging fruit in terms of reforms?
From the Western Balkan point
Correct.
of view, it's the implementation of the growth plan, EU growth plan. It's a big opportunity there, and now they have access to the SIPA and TIPS and investment that are in place. Hopefully, more funds will be available from the multi-annual financial framework from the EU.
The next one.
That will definitely close the gap. I have some interesting data. I was last week in Kosovo at the Ignita Forum where they presented a new convergence dashboard. And if you see this data, I don't want to be pessimistic here. I know
Can we zoom in?
Yeah.
It's a very good chart.
This is it's good.
Hold it
Depends
up,
how
Ilva.
you see it.
Hold it up.
What does good means? But just to put.
Ilva,
if
hold it to the camera.
Yeah, if things don't change immediately, Albania will need on the economic sector only. Here I am. Will need 53 years to achieve the EU standards.
At the current
will need
rate.
100 years at the current rate. Kosovo 100 years. Montenegro 72 years on economic sector. North Macedonia, 59 years, and Serbia, 35 years. Now, if things change, and if, for instance, the organizers, the Vienna Institute of International Economic Studies, said that if Kosovo becomes an EU member tomorrow, this gap would be closed by 40 years. So this is important. So the funds and but it's like it's a two-way street. Brussels should consider some strategic plans for the Balkans, but also the region has to deliver.
Understood. How do we speed things up?
How many years we talk about Brussels, Western Balkan, agrément? How long we are talking about acquis communautaire? When I look on the numbers in Western Balkans, I see approval rate for European Union. It's pretty low. It's like 30% overall. So at the end, I don't think it's about another wave of big conferences and another way of rule of law debates. But sometimes it's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
No, most of the time it's hypocrisy. So we are not, unfortunately, whether I like it or not, we are not in era of endless value-based leadership. I don't think that we are even in era of geopolitics anymore. It's era of geoeconomics. So, and again, American investors are happy in way worse regions of the world than Western Balkans from perspective of rule of law, and they are making money and they are investing. So I do believe number one priority, better marketing. Number two, sort of like red carpet wave, hey, we want you here, we want you two guys to invest, let's simplify. That's number two. Number three, US investors shall be interested. How? Let's bring strategic US investors and give them direct access. And by the way, again, we see it, for example, in case of Slovakia. Slovakia is not sexy in Brussels, but the guys in the government, they
Not
were
fashionable.
Yeah, so not fashionable. But then what they done? No tenders for nuclear power plant in Slovakia directly with Westinghouse. This is sexy for US. So you need to drag them. If we are living in an era when, and I believe that, $5 billion of American investments in the region is worth division in Ramstein and to get US interested, we just need to get it done. So we need American money, we need European money, especially EIB and EBRD, and we can have also Arab money. This is now, in today's geopolitical world, Arabs are much closer to us than they used to be before.
Ian, why has an American gone already in the Balkans?
As I said, your problem is...
Marketing?
Yes.
Not in Albania, for instance. I think
So tell us
we're
about
doing a great
Albania's
job
good
about
marketing.
Albania. We have a first digital minister and all the advertisement. But yeah, I agree on the marketing and being on promoting more what the countries can offer. But on the other issue, on the other hand, is yes, rule of law and corruption is an issue. I believe from what I have been when I was on the ground there, and their concerns were
So
shared.
we shall be happy as a company that we don't have American competitors. Currently, we own largest telecommunication in Serbia. We own largest TV in Croatia. If we are talking about region, largest TV in Slovenia. We just opened new TV from Zagreb to Bosnia. We are happy. And we do, so we are.
But isn't
so
this?
Am I bullish about Serbian economy? Yes, I'm very bullish about Serbian economy. And the best way how we show our interest is with our own money, and by bringing others. So in our case, we bring Etisalat from Abu Dhabi. We just invested $800 million jointly to Serbia again. Before that, we brought Etisalat, now called ENT. We brought them to the region, with 50-50 huge deal in Serbia, Hungary, Bulgaria, and guys from Etisalat are publicly traded, so they are very risk aware, and they are happy. So we are happy as well.
Understood. But isn't this the solution that you and I talk about quite often? That American investors don't see the region, or don't have, there's no visibility for the region for your average American investor, and the pathway is partnerships. So your firm does know the region well, and you can build the partnerships that are necessary to bring investors from the Gulf and from the US in. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how that has worked. When US investors tend to be a little bit conservative, a little bit risk averse, you are less risk averse, and that is a good thing. But how do you manage to build a partnership to bring the more risk averse in?
So I don't think it's about being or not being risk averse. Every big fund, private equity bank, you have an investment committee, and you don't want to do subscale things, because you don't want to have 100 small investments. You want to have a few large. This is tricky in Central Southeast Europe. So for, let's say, companies like Advent, Apollo, BlackRock, so minimum threshold for investments is $200-300 million. The same for Mubadala, Adia, ADQ. So you need somehow to consolidate. Would we be able as a PPF to get interest of guys from Abu Dhabi if we would do country by country? No. We had to give them ability, hey, let's do something cross-border, 4 countries, and again, some of them EU, some of them like Serbia, non-EU. And we were able to get their interest, and then it was still in era of Thierry Breton and Vestager. We were able to pass so-called European CFIUS. Very painful process for every one of us, but in 11 months we did it. We done it. So I think that for US,
what sectors were you investing in?
Telecommunication. Okay. So this joint venture, PPF Etisalat Telco Group, this is like 4 countries of Europe, 3 EU, 1 non-EU, Serbia, and at the end we got blessing both from Brussels, and also it is national security interest of US. So even US said, hey, this is a great deal. Let's do it together. So you need to find projects that are cross-border. Now let's come back to 3C's initiative. It started as a north-south corridor. Not you, but American interests are about kicking Russian gas from the region, and ideally sell Chevron, ExxonMobil. So then for that, you need to have pipes. You already have 2 LNG terminals. One is in Alexandru, second one is in Croatia, but then you need to have pipes north. This is big money. This is not $1 billion, which was original 3C fund, in $5, $10, $15 billion. Then for this kind of projects, you need to have consortiums. And yes, it can be also EIB and EBRD, but it can be Exim Bank from here, it can be DFC, and it can be Arabs. And then this is great for everyone. If there will be pipe from Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova, this is a strategic thing. This is where penny can be made. And then you need a second pathway, which is Greece, Albania, Serbia, Central Europe. These are big projects that can lure American investors.
Do you find this convincing?
Of course, it's more wishful for me because I do have some data, Ian. I don't want to be the person who brings the bad news here, but the World Bank new report says that the growth will be only 3% this year, down from 3.6% in the region due to...
3 is great.
Yeah, well, a lot of people would like to.
Down from compared to the previous year. And this is mostly because of weak exports, high borrowing costs, and shrinking workforce. And this is the only negative, if I can say, data that I can share with you. the Western Balkans are losing human capital. There is a human capital erosion, and that's very dangerous. Instead of exporting goods and products, we're exporting youth and qualified people, and I believe that's a tax that no reform can offset.
So, on a positive note, 20 years ago, Czech Republic and Poland entered European Union together. From macro data, we used to be that day 75% of European economy, the average per capita. Poland, less than 45. Now, Poland is $1 trillion economy. The speed of growth of Poland over the last 20 years is 2 times Czech Republic. They didn't need conferences for that. They didn't need Brussels blessing. Just do your homework. It's possible, and it's not now everybody saying, hey, Donald Tusk saved us. No, it was also Mateusz Morawiecki and Beata Szydło before her. So last decade, Poland strategically using money, highways, ports, energy, large capex infrastructure project, a little bit emulating what China started doing during Jiang Zemin and then President Hu era. So basically you drive through large projects the economy upwards. And it was very successful. So I think at the end it's about homework in Western Balkans. It's not about Europe. It's not about another conferences and let's come together.
Do you have any allergy?
Yeah, allergy to conferences.
I have allergies to conferences. I have allergies to conferences because you can have let's do Bled Forum, let's do Warsaw Forum, let's do Three Seas Forum, let's do Tallinn Forum.
I think we all agree on the mushrooming of conferences.
So at the end, Polish government, from being very poor country, now they are successful energy doing the homeworks. So everybody can be successful.
And I agree with Jan on the final
point. Oh, good,
point.
yes.
Yes.
So some harmony as we finish this discussion.
We do need to change people's lives where they are, in the region.
Yeah.
All these reforms that we're talking, the investments, at the end of the day, they need to improve people's lives. Because in my world, at the end of the day, there is no economist ever that builds a future. Citizens do, people that are there on the ground, and they are going to do the hard work.
Okay, well, thank you. This has been a very dynamic panel, exactly as I wished it would be. Thank you to our 2 panelists. Well, I think we will try to continue in this format in the next spring meetings. The annual meetings in Thailand, I think we can probably do something quite exciting. So I'm very grateful to you. I'm going to move up to the podium with a little bit of housekeeping. But thank you both, Jan and Ilva, and if we can give them a round of applause. Thank you. And in our very innovative dialogue, we try to shift formats and do different things. And this time we've managed to have a very special guest to join us to talk about a really very exciting, very promising member of the European Union, which is Romania. So when the table's ready, I will call him up to join us. But before that, I'll also tell people who are viewing that we have many exciting events this week, including an interview with the Finance Minister of Ukraine tomorrow at 1 p.m. That's Mr. Marchenko. And I will also be interviewing the governor of the Turkish Central Bank in conjunction with our colleagues at AC in Turkey on Friday at 9:30. But it's now time to invite the minister up. So, Mr. Minister, if you wouldn't mind coming to the stage. Thank you. We can give him a round of applause. Thank you, sir. So, thank you very much for making time during your busy week.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're most welcome. So I thought we'd start exactly with the busy week. What your objectives are, the conversations you hope to have, and the story you hope to tell on Romania's economy.
I think the most important message for Romania, especially now, is that we just performed the biggest consolidation, the biggest volume of consolidation in 2 packages that Romanian government ever put in place in the last 15 years. And I think we're sending a very powerful message about what we're planning to do with the economy in the following years. We've done that during the European crisis in 2010, and now we're doing it again, but I think this time is in a different manner, because we're consolidating. This is planned to be a friendly growth consolidating package. it's actually two packages, and I think the markets already reacted to it because all the rating agencies already confirmed our rating. We also did the budgetary rectification, so we passed basically the main messages and the main actions because we wanted to send a different, let's say, to show a different attitude towards fiscal discipline and planning and respecting figures. And this is the essential thing that we must do to ensure growth. I'm very positive about next year, although the perspectives for growth are not very high. Now what we are at 0.3%, probably will end up, end of the year will be 0.5, 0.6%. But 2026 is different. We have almost 10 billion only in grants that we have to spend within the RRF till August next year, which of course it's a very big boost for the economy, and we have a different attitude towards attracting FDIs. What I expect to happen, I expect the economy to be prioritized. So this is different. We put the economy, we prioritize the economy, and that means a new attitude towards FDI, towards investors, towards bringing investments towards Romania. What we have now, around 8% of GDP is public investment. But what we need to attract is private investment. Private investment is 3-4 times higher. So if you have 100 billion in 130 billion in public, then you would have almost 400 in private. So what we need is to attract this private investment. And for this matter, I totally agree with Jan. I think our test in the region is a test of cooperation, is a test of integration, of doing things together in a team, and basically presenting projects in a coordinated manner. And I believe for this matter, your example actually was in my, I prepared the same example somehow. We were on the same line here. The vertical corridor, which is, I think, a key project for the region in the next decade, is extremely important. And I think this should be one of the priorities that we have for the entire region, but Romania is already part of this from the very beginning. And what I see basically the vertical corridor being combined with the middle corridor. So an energy corridor from north to south, and then the middle corridor that actually is the fastest and cheapest and more direct route from Asia to Europe, from Europe to Asia through Romania, using the Black Sea, using the harbor of Constanța. These are two very valuable, let's say, projects that both of them could have a terrific impact on growth in Romania in the next decade, both of them.
Thank you. So maybe I'll pick up on this point of packaging collaboration with some of your closest neighbors and making this a better branding for US investors. So I was wondering if we could drill down into the sectors a little bit more. Which sectors do you think are most promising? Which sectors do you think are the most likely to attract the private investment to accompany the public investment?
I would start saying energy, because energy is extremely important. We already have a collaboration on a variety of, on the nuclear side, also in the former reactors that we have, the Doicești project with the SMRs. But it's not only nuclear, it's all the other energy types that, because energy is extremely important. Then we would have transport and infrastructure. We would have a lot of projects in the coming years. We have the Port of Constanța, which has a lot of potential, which is we have to valorify better. And in the energy sector, we have a lot of opportunities. Then we have mineral resources. We have a variety of mineral resources which are not yet valorified at their potential. And I'm talking here also about rare earths. I'm talking about important critical minerals. And there we would need an exploration program that would basically map better what is the potential of all these resources. And there are a lot of American companies interested to come in and talk with us and with the government and see what would be the best project.
With rare earths, there's always a question about processing as well.
Of course.
And this would be something that you'd want to develop on Romanian soil as well.
It should be an integrated chain, of course. But you start with the let's say with the proper exploration, and here, of course, we received interest in this.
Understood. So I thought we could drill down a little bit, no pun intended, on the Romanian economy and what makes it attractive. So you've experienced quite a lot of wage growth of late, which I don't know, you tell me whether it's affected your competitiveness. But I'm wondering if you could sort of paint the picture when you're trying to convince an investor that Romania is a reliable place to invest, that things are fine for a competitiveness standpoint, and also for the other things that investors tend to look at. So what are the sort of metrics that you try to show them to say that that Romania is the destination? What metrics do you use?
Well, if you look at the way the FDI's portfolio, if you look into it, and you will see that basically 2/3 of the stock of FDI is reinvested profits. That means whoever came to Romania reinvested. So our problem is to convincing companies to come and invest in Romania. And once they invest, the probability for them to stay and reinvest is a lot more. Of course, there are challenges related to competitiveness. Of course, there are many bottlenecks that we need to address in terms of fiscal issues, in terms of predictability, in terms of making the administrative burden, working on the administrative burden side. But these are things that are planned. So we have a plan towards doing these things. We have a plan to relaunch. We have a plan towards relaunching the economy. And one side of the plan is to make it as easy as possible for the investor and as predictable as possible for the investor. For that, the presence in the country would be, of course, one thing that they would like to do. And yes, on the wages side, if you look on the last 3 months, there are a lot of startups, new startups, and this is a very good sign. So compared to the same 3 months of last year, a lot of new startups started appearing. That means new jobs. Then another important thing is that these resources that we have, and when I said 10 billion, I said 10 billion euro only in grants, but we also have loans. We also have other types of financing. We are preparing the country for effectively installing
public-private partnerships.
Public-private partnerships, which is a long, let's say, objective that Romania had. And I discovered a lot of interest.
Yep.
I'm not talking here only about IFC and the World Bank. I'm talking here about a lot of investors that want to come and want to deliver projects in PPP. And I think this would be one of the main areas of interest in the next 5 to 10 years in Romania.
Thank you. So it'd be remiss of me not to ask you a few finance minister questions before we open the floor to questions. So you mentioned that the outlook for growth this year has been revised downwards, but you're optimistic about next year. I was wondering if you could give us a general picture of why you're more optimistic for next year, what may have held growth back and held growth back until now. I know you mentioned that there's more investments or more money coming from the EU, which is good, but why do you think things are going to pick up next year? And I was wondering if you could also connect it to the fiscal side. You have one of the EU's larger deficits. Now, this may be to do with the difficulties you're facing this year. I know there are also some spillover effects from the war that hopefully will not last much longer and we'll get a peace in Ukraine, but that has been one of the spillovers. So if you could paint a picture for us on the challenges you face as a finance minister, maintaining growth, trying to make it accelerate, and also the fiscal side.
Well, it was and it is a challenge. I mean, the deficit is the biggest deficit in the EU. So once you inherit the biggest deficit in the EU, and then you have very high inflation, and then you have current account deficit at a very high level, you receive all these things, you have to basically somehow change the strategy. Our strategy is basically to build a budget for 2026 that will contain all these things in such a way in which we would respect all the macroeconomic targets that we have. We haven't done this properly in the last years, and this is, I'm talking very openly about this because it's very clear, and the messages that we received from the Commission as well are in the same manner. But what we changed in the last 3 months is let's say, we changed the attitude, we rebuilt trust with the Commission, we started a very comprehensive dialogue with all the rating agencies. In parallel to this, we didn't just promise a different attitude. We adopted 2 legislative packages which are evaluated by the rating agencies as being almost 3.3% of GDP impact for 2026. So we had a strategy to contain the deficit in 2025, and the deficit is at around 8.4%, which is something that the agency saw as well. So we are on the same line there. And then going towards 6% in 2026. Going towards 6% in 2026 basically bring us in line with the structural plan that we presented in 2024. So we're basically closing this gap 2 years by doing this, by adopting these measures. And these measures, of course, helped us because once the consolidation is put in place, trust of the investor is changing, Commission is looking differently at Romania, and at the same time we are looking at a different speed of growth by using the resources that we have in the RRF and in the cohesion funds that we have available.
Yeah. So one question I think that's inevitable when you mentioned that you're making this effort and you're trying to bring the deficit down, there's also a commitment that all NATO member states have made on defense. So that will mean more spending in that area at a time when you're trying to actually tighten the fiscal stance. So how are you going to balance between those 2 commitments?
Well, it's not easy. And we also have SAFE. So besides this, we also have to integrate SAFE and phase in SAFE the moment RRF is phasing out at the, let's say, after August next year. We did calculations on this, also on integrating SAFE. SAFE is also a program of development, so we have dual-use projects there. We have also highways.
And it encourages cross-border cooperation.
It encourages cross-border, and basically SAFE, together with RRF, is linking the entire eastern region of Romania, so is basically bridging the gap that Moldova have on connectivity. So we will have a much better link with Moldova and Ukraine after RRF is finished and SAFE projects in highways are finished. This is basically a major leap in development for Moldova.
Okay. Well, I think we'll open the floor to questions. So please do volunteer with some interesting, provocative questions. Not something we're shy of. Do we have any volunteers? Well, please think of one. I'll ask you one more question, but then we will come back to the floor. On trade, so Romania trades very much in its own region, but some of the countries that you do trade with, like Germany, have large fiscal surpluses with the US, which has sometimes caused frustration within the US administration, and the EU now has some stability on its deal with the 15%, but I'm wondering if in your calculations you foresee any difficulties because of the 15%. Most people tend to say that at least this provides stability and we're Europeans so we can compete on quality. But what's the specific Romanian take on this? How many difficulties do you foresee with the new trade deal?
Well, far less than before. Far less difficulties than before adopting the deal as it was projected. So I say this because we have a large automotive sector and large automotive parts sector that functions in Romania. and we are, the sector is experiencing difficulties, so it's very important how the entire automotive sector is performing, and the connection with Germany on this specific matter is quite high. So it's also important how Germany is performing. We basically export in the EU with the main countries in the EU a lot. It's very important, but the exports also increased with about 3%, which is a good sign. And of course, the way the European economy performs, it's very important because we're very connected to you on these matters. But we're also looking, of course, to increase the exports and increase the economic partnership with the US. We're looking at Middle East. We're looking at diversification of partners, and this is basically part of our plan to boost the economy in the following period.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Lisa, and the microphone will come. So as it roves around, here it comes.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. You said that there's been more startups in the past 3 months than you'd seen previously. I was wondering, what you credit that to, and what can be done to make the environment for startups even more appealing, and also maybe what sectors those startups have been in.
I think we're talking basically, so we're looking at let's say, the IT&C sector. The IT&C sector is extremely important. We have a very good base. We have very good professionals in this sector, and this is something that is, let's say, I see a good energy going on there. And I think there are also other sectors in construction, for instance, there is a very good interest. But also the construction projects, because there are a lot of construction projects connected to this. The startups need what they need, I think, further, besides this sign, let's say. I take it as a positive sign, but I think they need more predictability and more easy, let's say, fiscal framework to develop. There have been many changes in terms of fiscality in Romania in the last 3-4 years, and this is something that startups are very vulnerable to and are looking at these changes. We had many exceptions in the fiscal code that they were good for them, but we cannot allow as many exceptions as were before because we also need more revenue. So I would say I'm looking at the following period as a balancing period in which things will come down, in the sense that, okay, we've taken consolidation measures, but it's 2% of VAT, which is increased. We increased excises, we increased other types of other taxes, but the changes are not as big, and I think they will not affect as much the economy because we're coming in with different funds and we're coming in with the European funds, and that will balance. And this will basically, I think, will have a very good effect, but it takes a little bit of time in order for these things to implement. And I think 2026, at the end of 2026, we will have the results.
Thank you. We have another question from Toby at the back.
Thanks. Just want to take us back to the topic of geo-economic collaboration. And I think before you arrived, we talked about no more conferences, no more talking shops, no more forums to discuss this issue. So from a Romanian perspective, what would you like to see that can genuinely help drive geo-economic cooperation in Europe?
I think the issue regarding the forums and conferences is that they don't translate into actions. I don't think the forums are a problem per se, or the conferences. I think the issue is that after all these actions, which are necessary for a better cooperation and for, let's say, acting towards the fragmentation in the region, or for compromising in between different opinions. These are good. The idea is what you do, what are the legislative or the actions or the coordinations that follows after these conferences. Because talking about the problem, you don't solve it. You keep on talking, but you need also to come up with solution. And for solutions, you need commitment. And we need to raise our ambition level towards the type of commitments the region needs in order to progress. And I think, look, at the vertical corridor is a very good example because it's a cooperation between, it took time, it took some years, but it's also a lot of investment going on there, but it's functional. So we need different examples of the same kind, and we also need to see these things in practice, not only discuss about them.
Thank you. And to close us out, I think we could probably bring it back to what you want to achieve this week, some of the conversations you'll be having. Obviously, many of them are private, but if you could give us a general flair of how you use this week to make some of these projects possible.
I think it's a very good occasion. I think the annual meetings are a very good platform to discuss with the IFC, with the World Bank. We have a very good portfolio of projects with the IFC, the biggest portfolio in the region. It's almost 7 billion. It's huge and it's important, and we want to preserve it and increase it. With the World Bank, we have very important projects as well that we want to continue. We talked about PPPs. PPPs are extremely important. We rely on technical assistance from both World Bank and IFC on this matter. On the other hand, we're talking with the rating agencies where we keep a very good connection with them, and we inform them every step because this was a sensitive period for Romania, and we rebuild trust by talking to them. And we're also looking at other possible investments in Romania on a variety of topics, and I've seen many investors talking about energy projects on Romania. They talk about, they are very interested, and I'm very glad to see interest and to see that they trust Romania, they trust how Romania will develop, and they trust the evolution of Romanian economy. So I think there are very good signs, and I think we need to be here, we need to be proactive, we need to have a very structured investment offer to present, and I think in the last months we've shown that. Because it's not only me coming to the annual meetings, it's my second visit in Washington, but we had the foreign minister coming 3 times. We have the health minister arriving today. We had the energy minister in New York as well. So there is an entire offensive of different ministers in this government presenting different parts of their portfolios and talking to their counterparts.
And they're all very welcome at the Atlantic Council, of course. So
thank you very much.
Obviously, we're very happy.
And I would again congratulate you for the office in Bucharest.
Yes,
I've been there. I've been part of this.
Glad to hear that. I was just about to mention that we are very proud to have our office in Bucharest, run by my friend, Mr. Serban. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to the Minister for making time out of carving the time out of his busy schedule. We hope this will be the first of many visits by you and other Romanian ministers to the Atlantic Council HQ.
I've been also here at the inauguration. So
you were at the inauguration of this building?
Yes, so last
You're a regular.
December I was here.
You should recommend us to your fellow ministers. So thank you for joining. Thank you also to our panelists earlier for the dynamic dialogue. It was quite dynamic, and I enjoyed it very much. We will continue with our special focus on the Central and Southeastern European region, especially on finding a new, cooler name for it. And so maybe next time we will inaugurate that. So thank you for joining us, and see you soon.
Thank you.